Hello traders, hope you're doing well. I've got a fantastic EA to share with you today. This is developed for the MT4 trading platform. It is completely free to download. Please see the link in the description below to help yourself. You'll also find many other free expert advisors that I have developed for the MT4 trading platform that you can download and use as much as you like. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to cover the fair value gaps EA that I have developed. As the name suggests, this is based on fair value gaps. Okay, I do have videos and articles covering fair value gaps in more detail if you want to check them out. However, in this video, I'm just going to cover the EA and the settings and how you can use it in your MT4 trading platform. As I said, it's completely free to use. Help yourself using the link in the description below. Okay, so here I have the MT4 trading platform. This equity graph you see here is just a rough backtest I've done over the last few months. If we go into the settings window, you'll see here where I have selected the fair value gaps EA. You can select the symbol that you wish to test, euro dollar here. You can use this on any instruments, so that's Forex currency pairs, stocks, indices, crypto, anything you like. For the model, the tester model, we can use open prices only. This is for rough testing. It's just that it's a lot quicker, especially when the EA is just calculating the values for the fair value gaps. However, when you want to fine tune the settings, you want to switch over to every tick testing for more accuracy. Okay, the date, you can select basically the dates you want to test over, the historical data. Here I've selected all of this year. Okay, but you can go back as far as you like. There, obviously, the more data that you test, the longer the test will take. Okay, so the period, this is the time frame that you want to test on. I've selected the 1 hour chart. I always prefer the 1 hour charts and above simply because they contain more price data and therefore signals tend to be more reliable in my experience. Okay, we can avoid some of the noise that you get in the lower term chart timeframes, 5 minute, 50 minute. And fair value gaps, from my experience, tend to be more reliable on the higher chart timeframes. Okay, so this here you see on the chart is just the visual chart of the backtest that I ran. The rough initial test is showing the entries and exits. You can check visual mode here or uncheck it if you want to watch the backtest visually. Alternatively, you can just click this open chart button here once the test is finished, and it will display like that. So expert properties, if we just get into the nitty gritty of the EA now, what I have coded. Okay, so this is the name. You can change this to anything. And this is what will be displayed in the comments in your account history. Pop-up alerts and email alerts and SMS alerts. So basically these are handy if you're not always going to be looking at your platform or around your screen. Perhaps you're out and about somewhere, or you're sat on the sofa and you want to be alerted when there's a fair value gap set up. You can set pop-up alerts to true, and this will give you a pop-up window in your platform saying that, for example, there's been an alert on the euro dollar 1 hour chart time frame, and you can just fire up the chart and check it out and see if you want to make a move or not. Alerts are also handy if you're in a position and you just want to be alerted when something happens. So perhaps you can exit a position or just manage it, maybe move your stop loss, lock in some profits, break even, trailing stop, etc. Email alerts, basically the same as the pop-up alerts, however, it will send you an email. For example, email euro dollar 4 hour chart, sell signal, and then you can just load up your platform, whether that's on your phone or your computer or your laptop, tablet or whatever, and then act accordingly. SMS alerts is the same. Basically, it will just send you an SMS instead. Okay. So use trading. If you have use trading set to true, the EA can actually place a trade. Okay. If you have it set to false, and then say pop-up alert set to true, it won't place the trade but give you an alert, and then you can manually do it. So it's a semi-automated solution there. Okay, if you want it to place a trade and you're confident for it to do so, you can just leave use trading set to true. You can also have both set to true, so you can have use trading set to true along with, say, email alerts. So when there's a fair value gaps trade been placed, the EA will, as I said, place the trade, and then you can just get the email alert to let you know that that's happened. Then fire up your trading platform and check the trade to make sure everything is okay, and perhaps manage it yourself. Well, the EA can also do the money management as well, which we'll get to in a minute. Okay, days filter, so that's self-explanatory. It's the days of the week that the EA can trade. Hours filter, again, self-explanatory. These are GMT hours, so you've got the hour start and the hour to end. Perhaps you want to trade a particular trading session, whether that's the London session or the London and New York overlap. Perhaps you want the Asian session. You can just adjust accordingly. Magic number, buy and sell. So these are the order IDs that are sent with the buy trades and sell trades. This is handy because it can differentiate between trades from other EAs that you may be running on your platform. And also, if you're running multiple charts of the same instruments with different settings and you don't want duplicate or conflicting trades, you can just set the same magic numbers so they don't clash. Okay, maximum spread, maximum slippage. The EA will not place a trade or send a signal if the maximum spread and maximum slippage are higher than these values here, which are in pips. Money management, so you can set the open orders limit. And with this EA, you can use either fixed lots or you can use a risk percent, in which instance the EA will automatically calculate the lot size for you. So if you have user risk set to false, this setting here, the EA will look at the lots field and that will be your position size. On the other hand, if you have user risk set to true, the EA will use the risk percent here, okay, to calculate the position size, so 2% of the account equity in this instance. Okay, as always with every expert advisor that you use, whether that's free or paid, just make sure that you test on demo thoroughly, back tests, forward tests as well, just to make sure you understand all the settings and how they work so you don't make any mistakes or have any misunderstandings. That is imperative. Okay, stop loss and take profit, self-explanatory. You can set, for example, 50 pip stop loss and 100 pip take profit. For me personally, I don't really like to rely too much on these fixed, rigid levels like this, simply because I feel the markets are, well, they are more dynamic, and there may be an opportunity to exit earlier and take a smaller loss, or there may be an opportunity to exit later and get a bigger win. So, for example, let's just say the stop loss is 50 and 100. That's 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio, not terrible, but if we open up a chart and just look for example, this position here. Okay, let me just remove that. Come in. So this position here, we can see, well, you know, you've got a triple bottom pattern there. Have a break up to the upside here. This resistance level. You also got the market making these higher lows here. You've got this wedge pattern breakout. Okay, and then you have this new level of support forming here, as well as a breakout of that level of support here, which actually goes back there. Okay, so once we have this breakout, this pullback, you can see this candlestick pattern here as well. And here, this in this hammer pattern here, is this support levels holding up well. We had all of these higher lows, all of the signs here were another wedge pattern. It's a very bullish market conditions here, okay? You can see the EA did actually enter a trade. I don't know if you can see it very well, but there is a trade taken there. Okay, now the thing I'm talking about here is the stop loss and take profit. So let's just say the stop loss was 50 pips on this trade. Okay, so 50 pips was actually ideal, to be fair, where it is. What the point I was trying to make is I'd put my stop loss around, in a long trade like this, I'd put it below a recent low, so that would be around here, which funnily enough is 40 to 50 pips anyway. However, let's just say you were having 100 pips stop loss, you wouldn't need that in this instance. Okay, because you can see that the recent low, swing low here, is 50 pips, so you could have your stop loss straight away. Just as if your stop loss was 25 pips, you might look at this situation and go, well, it should really be 50 below to give me some breathing room below this level of support here. Okay, so it just really depends on your risk preferences. The point I'm trying to make is I don't feel that the stop loss and take profit should be so rigid. It just depends on the market. conditions. And then take profit's the same. If we had 100 pip take profit, we would have been taken out here, which in hindsight, you may say, oh, well, fantastic, 100 pips. We had a 50 pip stop loss, 2-to-1 risk to reward, not a bad trade, but you can just see you've left way too much on the table, almost 400, well, more than 400 pips. You look how the market goes all the way up, over 600 pips. If you would have had your 100 pip take profit, rigid take profit, you would have exited way too prematurely here, okay? Don't get me wrong, there will be instances where price will turn around and you'll be happy that you took those 100 pips, but what we can do is once price shoots up around here, we can just move our stop loss from below this low here to break even, just lock in the trade. So if it does turn around, worst case scenario, we get taken out for break even, okay? And then as it continues moving up, we can just trail below the lows. So as it gets up here, we can move our stop loss from break even and just lock in those 100 pips, okay? We can do this below the low, below the low, below the low, below the low, more or less all the way up and maximize the move as much as possible. Using the lows here, we probably could have caught, over 500 pips in this move simply by using dynamic money management rather than these rigid levels. Okay, well, some may argue if you can take 100 pips here and then re-enter. The problem is the more you re-enter, the higher your chances are of getting the entry wrong. Okay, you could end up buying at the high, selling at the low. Yeah. So I much prefer to just take one good trade and put some effort into the money management. This is a 1 hour chart, so it's not like you need to check the charts constantly, even if you're checking back every couple of hours, just to see what's going on, and you can have the EA to alert you as well. But if you did re-enter, let's just say you took those 100 pips, then you saw this level here, resistance, and a breakout, you could have taken a trade there. Okay, and that would have been your re-entry. But again, you could have just stayed in that trade there, because the more you try to re-enter, the higher your chances are, as I said, of getting it wrong or buying in too late. Okay, so that's just the point I was trying to make about money management. So if we go back to the EA settings, okay, so that was the stop loss and take profit. I mean, you can just have initial values, like you can put the 50 and the 100 initially, get an alert, and then okay, there's been a trade, let me hop in and see if I need to change the stop loss and take profit, rather than having no stop loss. Of course, that can be quite dangerous. So that's that. Minimum equity. If the equity of the account falls below this value, then the EA will close all trades and terminate. Maximum equity. If the account goes above this value, the EA will do the same, close trades and terminate. Okay, break-even trail. So you can set the EA to have a break-even. If you set this true, this is the break-even point in pips. So you might want to put, I don't know, at 50 pips, move the break-even, the stop loss to break-even. But again, as I said, I prefer to look at the charts and just see when's a good time to move the stop loss manually. But if you're not going to be around or you just prefer a fully automated solution, it's also there for you to do in the EA settings. And the trailing stop, the same, you can set to true, and the trailing distance you can set in pips here. Close percent, so if you set this to say 25, it will close 25% of the trade once the break-even point and trailing gap point is reached, and continue to close 25% as the trading gap continues to be reached and the stop loss is moved until the minimum lot closed is what's left. So if you put 0.1 and you're trading one standard lot here, the EA will keep closing the position until there's only 0.1 lots left, and then it will let that run. That's handy. Perhaps you want to just leave, let's say, 0.5 in this instance every 50 pips. The EA will close 25% until you have 0.5 lots left, and it will just let that run. It's good if you want to bank some profits whilst trying to capture big moves. Right, okay, so this is the nitty-gritty of the EA. If you're still with me, well done. So the EA can do a lot. It is the fair value gaps EA, as I said. However, there are many other features I've implemented within it just to make it better, make it more flexible, make it so there's more or less a limitless amount of different entry and exit criteria and strategy you can build with this. So all indicators agree. So these are the indicator entries, or the triggers as I call them. So this is a trigger for the entry and the exit. Okay. If all indicators agree are set to true, all of the triggers that you set to true must be in agreement for there to be an entry or an exit. If you set it to false, then anytime there's one of these has a trigger, the EA can take a trade, regardless if the others don't agree. So parabolic saw entry, you can set to true or false. That's basically the parabolic saw to be below the price for a buy or above the price for a sell. MA trend entry, so the price must be above the moving average or below the moving average. Above for a buy, below for a sell. Okay. Stochastics trend entry, so the stochastic signal line must be above the main line for a buy or below for a sell. Stochastic extreme. Stochastic must be below 20 for a buy or above 80 for a sell. Okay. CCI entry, CCI must be above 100 or below. Let me just double check that for you. Yeah. Okay, so the CCI is above 100 for a sell or below minus 100 for a buy. RSI below 30 for buy, above 70 for a sell. Bollinger Bands, so the price must be above the bands for a buy or below the bands for a sell. MACD entry, so the MACD must be above the main line should be above, sorry, the histogram should be above the signal line for buy or below the signal line for sell. ADX entry, so the ADX should be trending upwards for buy or downwards for sell. And the fair value gap entry, here we go. So fair value gap entry, if there's a fair value gap and price is within the fair value gap zone, then true is the trigger for taking that trade. Okay, whether that's a buy or a sell, depending on the fair value gap, if it's a bullish or bearish occurrence. And the close on opposite signal, if you have this set to true, if there is an opposite signal, an open trade is closed. So if you have fair value gap entry set to true and there's a buy fair value gap, EA will take the trade, and then when there's a sell fair value gap, it will close that trade and then take a one in the opposite position. Okay, and you can have, for example, you have the fair value gap set to true and then the MA moving average trend set to true, so the price will have to be below the moving average for a sell or above the moving average for a buy. Moving average you can set. Where is that? Here, moving average filter, you can set the moving average value there. Okay, I'll get into filters in a minute. So this is if you want to play around and experiment with different filters. As I said, all indicators agree. If you set this to true, then the all of the triggers that you have set to true must agree. So price would have to be below the moving average, and there must be a sell FVG fair value gap for there to be a trade. If you have it set to false, if price is below, it can sell. Price, if there's a bearish FVG, it can sell regardless of the conditions agreeing or not. I like to have this set to true, and for the purpose of this video, we're just gonna use the FVG because it is, after all, the fair value gaps EA. If you're watching this video, that's what you're looking for. The rest is just a bonus if you like to experiment perhaps with optimizations, so on and so forth. Okay, candlestick patterns. So if these are set to true, then there must be a candlestick pattern for timing the entry. Okay, so you've got various patterns there. I do have videos on all of these patterns, as well as many others. Perhaps you want, these to trigger the entry just for further confirmation. Okay. So that option is there for you as well. Bollinger Bands. So these are the settings for the indicators. you know, the ones that we just mentioned here. You can adjust the settings. Okay, there, these are just the defaults, but you can change to anything you feel comfortable with, or if you want to experiment perhaps with an optimization, you can do so. Okay, so the EA works like this. First, it will check the triggers. Okay, so we've got a fair value gap true, and then what it will do is it then jumps onto the filters. So it does triggers first, triggers, and then it goes onto the filters. Okay, with these filters, you can choose any time frame from the 1 minute all the way up to the monthly. You can set to true that you want the trigger to apply. So we're on the 1 hour chart. So if you want parabolic SAR filter here on the 1 hour chart, parabolic SAR must be below the price for a buy or above the price for a sell. If you have the trigger here set to true, and you can apply it to other time frames as well if you want perhaps to look at the longer term charts just to confirm the trend direction. Same with the stochastics trend filter, it must be trending on whatever time frame you select. Okay, stochastic should be extreme whatever time frame you select. Moving average, so you want a fair value gap, but it has to be in agreement with the weekly moving average, for example. You can set that to true. This just can help you stay on the right side of the long-term trend. With multi-timeframe analysis, same with the CCI extreme. So many settings you can play around with. I'm not going to go over each and every single one in this video because we'll be here forever. However, help yourself to the EA using the link in the description below. And yeah, you'll see that there's a million different ways you can experiment with it to meet your own trading preferences, because of course every trader is different. Okay, so the fair value gap. Okay, interestingly, you can also have the fair value gap as a filter on different time frames, not just as a trigger. Okay. And this fair value gap look back setting is how far to look back when calculating the fair value gap. Okay, so you can experiment with that as well if you wish. Super trend filter, so I've included the super trend indicator. Basically, you can, let's just say you want the super trend on the 4 hour must be bearish for there to be sell trades or bullish for there to be buy trades. This can just give you that extra filter. To be honest, I don't really find it that much different to a standard moving average. However, it's there because I know a lot of you perhaps interested in the super trend indicator, and I do have an EA dedicated to that as well, which you can find in my other videos. And the super trend mode, period, and multiplier. So there's loads of settings there you can have fun with. If we want to use this purely as a fair value gap EA, we can do that as well. Okay, optimization. So optimization, what it does basically is you can, in the strategy tester of the MT4 platform, if you don't know, you can just select certain settings. So for example, let's just choose true or false on all of these. We'll leave the fair value gap entry set to true. But we'll click everything else to optimize. Just turn off the break even and trade and stop. We'll use fixed lots. Stop loss will. So with optimization, you select that box of the setting you want to optimize, and then you put the start and end values that you wish to test. So let's just put 50 there. We'll go up in 50 increments and we'll stop at 100. So this will test the stop loss of 50 and 100, because it's starting at 50, it's going up at 50 and stopping at 100. For the take profit, we can put it at 0 because we've got the close on opposite. No, we won't actually. We'll start on 100 for that. We'll go up in 100 increments and we'll stop at, let's just say 500. So this is just a rough test, by the way. I'm just trying to show you how to optimize in the MT4 strategy tester. So this will optimize take profit of 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. Okay, combinations, because we're starting at 100, we're going up in 100 steps, and we're stopping at 500. Okay, you can optimize the break even and trailing stop if you wish. As I said, we selected the indicators. We're going to leave the fair value gap entry set to true. We won't do any candlestick patterns, we'll leave those for now, but you can optimize, you know, the Bollinger Band periods, deviations, MACD, everything you can optimize as you wish. Okay, but what I think we'll do is we'll just put true or false on the filters for the current time frame, which is the 1 hour. So we'll optimize true or false. All of those. Okay, the look back. We can optimize the look back. Let's just say 50, 50. I don't know. What should we put? 500, something like that. Super trend, true or false. Okay, so once you've selected everything that you wish to optimize, you can just click and just make sure we got use trading set to true, and we don't need alerts because we're just running a back test. You can click OK. Then in the strategy tester window here, you click this optimization button. Choose the dates that you want to optimize over. So we'll just go for this year so far, so the last 6 to 7 months. 1 hour chart, you can choose the spread. You can use the current market spread, or if you're perhaps testing on the weekend, you want to use something more realistic, so the spread might be too high. Okay, and then you can click, well, before we click start, under expert properties, under testing, you've got this genetic algorithm button here. If this is selected, basically the EA will do, the MT4 platform will do the test as quick as possible based on the settings you've selected. Obviously, the more settings you select, the longer it's taken. It does depend on the power of your machine as well. But if you have this unchecked, it will do every single possible combination, which can take a long time. If you check this, it just sort of throws away the combinations it feels will not produce good results, and it does make things a lot quicker. So I always leave that checked. And under the optimization tab, you can check anything and then change the values if you want specific things, like you only want results that have a maximal drawdown of 70 or whatever value you put in there, or got to have no more than consecutive losses, whatever value you put in there. Okay, but I just leave those unchecked because I want to see all the results. Okay, and then you click start optimization checked. Open prices only, as I said, it tends to be a lot quicker. The EA does use open prices for the calculations, but you can always switch to every tick after to confirm your test. Just bear in mind, the strategy test is never going to be 100% accurate. You can implement tick data from third-party software and get 99% modeling quality, but even then, of course, backtesting cannot account for things like real-life slippage, spreads which differentiate between brokers, you know, the server, various other factors. Okay, this is as close as we can get with the default conditions. And then if you go in the optimization results tab, you can sort by profit, profit factor, drawdown, whichever you prefer. And you can see here, it will just show you all of the different settings that we checked, all the different combinations of those settings, okay, and the results that they produced over on the instrument, time frame, and dates we have selected. Okay, and then you can see that's finished. Took less than a minute. You can sort by profit, and then we can see, okay, so this is the most profitable settings. And if you just basically double click, what that will do is it will load those particular settings from the optimization. That combination will be loaded into the inputs, and you can just hit save and save that as, you know, FVG EA euro dollar 1 hour test, whatever you want to call it, and then you can always load them at a later date, whether that's for backtest or on a chart. Okay, and then so you double click, it's loaded the settings, it's removed the optimization button, then we click start, and it will just run a backtest, single backtest using those settings. And there we go. If you go in optimization results, you'll see it will be this 15,000, 15,000. It will be that one there. Okay, and it's not too bad a graph. Plenty of trading activity. However, what we've done there, you know, is what some may argue is called over optimization. Okay, or curve fitting if you prefer. We've basically chosen as many settings as possible. Well, you know, there's plenty more we can choose from, you know, the indicator settings and loads more true and false. We could have tested a lot more, but even then we've still over-optimized by basically looking for the ideal combination on that particular data set, the data set being the dates, the symbol, and the time frame, okay? What you'll find is you can usually always find good settings. In fact, if we look at the optimization results, there's loads of good or decent combinations, you know, whether you want high profit or you want a high profit factor, you know, there's loads of good settings to choose from here, but we've over-optimized really, because you see this graph here, it looks good, but I'm pretty sure if we take those same settings and we go back and add, let's add a year we didn't test, okay? Go back a further year, keeping in mind we didn't optimize for the previous year. Okay, and then click start and see what happens. Those same settings that produced that nice graph, I'm pretty sure, there you go. Over-optimization 101, okay? This is a mistake so many traders make. We can probably pinpoint where we did our initial optimization, and that's when the graph started to go up. So is it around here somewhere? Yeah. Almost on the button. Around here is where we optimized when it goes up. Okay, because that's because we curve fitted to that data set. Look at all this before, it's not good. Okay, so this is a risk. This is what you need to be careful of, which is why I prefer semi-automated trading, just so you can, you know, have more control over. Do these, you know, how we drew these lines to mark support, resistance, trend lines, you know, dynamic money management, so using swing high, swing low. Okay, not buying high, not selling low. You know, there's certain things a human eye can see that any EA can't. So, but yeah, you can, you know, don't get me wrong, you will strike gold once in a while. Just go careful and have realistic expectations, okay? And perhaps even if you were using these settings and you just worked on the money management, it won't be as bad. And some may argue, well, why don't you just optimize back further? The thing with that is you can keep going back and back and back. So we can probably find good settings now that go back an extra year, okay? But what have we done? We've just over-optimized for an extra year. We can go back 5 years and optimize for that day. We can go back 10 years, 20 years. Say we optimize for 20 years and we get an amazing looking graph. That's, again, is just curve fitted. We've just found the data to match those exact conditions. It doesn't mean that's what's going to happen moving forward. Don't get me wrong, it is a good way perhaps of trying to find a good base strategy, or just to eliminate what you know won't work and sort of fine tune or narrow down a bunch of settings to something. But then, you know, you just need to be careful moving forward that you've got realistic expectations. Of course, historical performance is not a reflection of what's going to happen moving forward, okay? As you can see, we have, you know, some decent-ish results coming in. This optimization is going to take longer because we've chosen a longer time period from, you know, we've added an extra year. We're still on the 1 hour chart time frame. You can test, as I said, any chart time frame you wish. Lower time frames take longer, higher time frames are quicker. So if you test a 4 hour daily charts, optimization will be a lot quicker. But it's just a good way to see perhaps how different various settings will work in the EA. But as you said, it's completely free to use. You can get it using the link in the description below. Let's just see what's coming through here. Okay, so we're getting some decent results starting to come through. Let that run a little bit longer. As I said, you can choose a lot more settings to optimize if you wish. We've just gone for the triggers here and the filters on the 1 hour time frame, but you can add filters on other time frames as well. But yeah, there's, you know, you don't necessarily need an EA to trade. I mean, this can send you alerts to certain market scenarios. Perhaps you just want an alert when there's a fair value gap and then use your own strategy. You can obviously do that, or you just don't even need it EA at all. You can just look at a scenario like this and say, okay, you can clearly see that it's 1 hour chart. So this happened over the course of a few days. You wouldn't need to be chart watching. Okay, strong support here. What about the resistance? Okay, resistance here in this channel, and then when price breaks up there, that would have been a trading opportunity. Didn't need any unicorn indicators to spot that, did we? Just simple support, resistance, breakout, stop loss below the low here or here, so relatively tight, and then you could have caught this move nearly 200 pips. Okay, and then as you see the market start to make these lower highs, you may have been considering an exit. Okay, especially once this support is breached here. Okay, decent trade there. Pure price action trading. I've got lots of videos on that. If you missed the initial breakout, you had a pullback here. Okay, pullback here, 3 inside up candlestick pattern. Nice breakout candle there. Resistance then becomes support, another potential trade there. Okay, so pretty straightforward. You can also trade that way if you wish. So past a bit of time, let's go back. Okay, optimization starting to pump out some more results. Okay. Again, takes longer depending on how many settings you've chosen, how far back your dates go, and the time period. But this EA is super flexible. As I said, you can use it just for fair value gaps. You can, even if you don't use it for the fair value gaps, you might just want to use it with a moving average and CCI. You can get alerts when the RSI is extreme, or the ADX trends changed, MACD. It's just basically can do a million different things depending on your trading strategy and what matters to you, whether that's just to send you alerts to place trades, for entries, for exits, money management. Super flexible. And completely free as well. Okay, we're coming towards the end of this optimization. There we go. So let's just sort by profit. Okay, you can see not as impressive as we did for the initial year. Let's just take a random one. Click start, run that. See what we get. So remember, we double click the settings, it loads them. Okay, not terrible. However, let's just add another 2 years and see what happens. So we go back further 2 years and what happens to that graph. Interesting to see what happens. And there you go, because we over optimized again. We know where optimization started, probably around here somewhere, not far off, because we didn't optimize this part, we over optimized for this part. Okay, so just reiterating the risks of curve fitting or over optimization. But other than that, the EA, as I said, help yourself, use it as you wish. It can do plenty of things. It's based around fair value gaps. Appreciate you watching. Hopefully you've learned something in this video. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to catch you on the next one. Take care.